Okay, so we're going to do a taste test today on this pepper. And this is called the Jimmy Nardellos. Whew, it's a hot one today. In the greenhouse. Over 100. Anyway, today's pepper we're going to review here is the Jimmy Nardello. Now, I didn't get that many Jimmy Nardellos this year. This plant was kind of crowded out from this thing, which I got to keep cut down. I keep forgetting to cut it down. But I managed to get a few of them, and there are some on the plant. So I got enough here to do a taste test today. And I did do this last year, but I figured I'd revisit it this year and see if any other changes developed in the flavor or anything like that. And we figured to give it a go again. Alright, but here's a profile of the plant. As you can see, it's a waxy smooth stem. It's very smooth. It has ridges on the stem. It's not like a round stem per se, but as it gets larger, it gets woody and it gets more round. So that's not always going to be consistent. And like in this particular case, you can see this pepper's heavy enough to actually bend these plants over. And that's kind of a problem with this pepper. I noticed it was doing that last year. I staked it up last year and it was fine. But when they lean over, that's usually not a good thing. You know, it's not the end of the world, but you don't want your pepper plants leaning. And these plants tend to do that. These peppers can get, you know, heavy enough to pull it down. The leaf type is a regular leaf type, standard regular leaf. Like I said about the stem, there's no purpling in the stem except at the node, very, very little. You'll see a little bit of purpling here and there. And that's about it as far as plant identification goes. And this is what you should expect to see when you're growing the Jimmy Nardellos. You see anything other than that, it's either crossed or you got the wrong seeds. Alright, so let's pick this. Pick this one right here. And when I pick my peppers, just so you know, and you could do the same, and it doesn't always work, but for the most part it does. When you pick them off the plant, you just want to grab it and turn that stem upwards and it should detach. If you pull on it or anything else, it won't detach and you'll end up breaking a whole branch off. And sometimes I do that, but I don't recommend it. But anyway, let's get you out of that steam oven in there. And so here's a look at it. Let me get the lighting right on this. That's what it looks like. I mean, this is really something to look at. Yeah, it's a little green on the bottom. That don't mean nothing. It just means it's ripening inconsistently, but that doesn't mean that the seeds ain't mature, and it doesn't mean that you can't use the pepper. It's fine. The red part will be sweeter. And this is a sweet pepper, by the way. There's no heat on this at all. So, give you one last look and we'll do a taste test on it. Isn't that a gorgeous pepper? Isn't that gorgeous? Alright, let's turn you around. Alright, so we got an easy one to do today. And this is a sweet pepper. And it's not a hot one, so I don't have to worry about being burned alive. But it's a sweet pepper, and it's the Jimmy Nardellos. And you can see it's quite an interesting shape, and they all kind of do this. Sometimes they're straighter, but for the most part, they really get curled up like this, real good. Almost like a Melrose pepper. If you ever grown Melrose, they tend to do this a lot. And they get really, really slinky like that. Really nice effect for any kind of a dinner setting or something like that. You want to use something really creative looking. This is one to do it. But it's a sweet pepper, so we should be able to get through this one pretty easily. So let's give it a bite. There's no heat on it, so we don't have to cover the heat. The taste on this pepper is amazing. It's one of the best tasting peppers I've ever had. Because it's a sweet pepper and there's no heat, the sweetness tends to really get sweet. And you can really pick that sweetness up. Now, oftentimes you'll hear me refer to sweet peppers as tasting like a certain type of a fruit. And most of the times, peppers will taste either like peaches or apples once in a rare while I've tasted them where they actually tasted like cherries. I've had that happen a couple times. But this particular pepper is in the apple tasting range. It tastes like eating a fresh, juicy apple. Almost the consistency too. It's a very, very tasty pepper. I take another bite. Like I say, it tastes like an apple. This one tastes like an apple. It's sweet just like an apple. Who needs an apple tree when you're growing a Jimmy Nardellos? Now, I've said that in the past, and it really is like eating an apple. It's very sweet. If you were growing a field of these things, you can pick your peppers all day, and you could literally eat these things as you're going through the field and really fill your belly on them and give you the moisture and the energy and the fructose and everything you need, because let me tell you, this is absolutely delicious. Now, with sweet peppers, it's different than cooking with green peppers. Like when you cook with green peppers, there's a certain type of accent that gives your dish. When you cook with sweet peppers, it gives it a different accent. Keep that in mind. A lot of people say, oh, I gotta have only ripe peppers, only red ones, you know, I can only cook with the red ones. Keep in mind, it's going to change the flavor of your dish. Sometimes your dish is meant to taste like it does with green peppers. For example, I like to cook with a mix of red peppers and green peppers when I make and fry up sausage. I like that mix. When I make like hamburger dishes that are calling for peppers, I'll generally tend to use green peppers. It's not that I don't want to add the ripe peppers and I don't want the nutrients. It's nothing to do with it. It has to do with the flavor accent. The sweet peppers will sweeten up your dish considerably. I've made salsas where the salsas just had red, ripe peppers in it. I picked the reddest, ripest ones. And it tasted like I dumped sugar and honey into the salsa. Which for me, I personally don't like that in the salsa. I don't like my salsa sweet at all. I like to taste the tomato a little salty on the salty side with the blend of the peppers and the herbs in it. I do not want to taste sweetness. So I personally do not like adding red sweet peppers to my salsa. Now, are all red peppers sweet? No, not necessarily. Cayennes turn red. They develop more of a richer flavor, but they don't get sweet. But certain peppers that tend to get sweet, like the Jimmy Nardellos, will get very, very sweet. And if you're making something like salsa and you don't necessarily want that sugary taste in your salsa, some people like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, for me, I don't look for that in a salsa. It's not a high-quality salsa to me. I don't like that taste in the salsa. It doesn't work for me. So, I don't like using these peppers. I just figured I'd let you know that because some people don't really realize it, and they might just be adding stuff unaware. I'm looking at this strange-looking bug flying around here. Alright, and there's really not much else to say about it. It has that Jimmy Nardello flavor. Generally, it tastes like a sweet pepper. It's not going to be like exquisite type of flavor. Texture was very crunchy. It's very thin-walled, and it'll cook very easily. Outside of that, it tastes like any other red type of pepper. Now, I haven't tasted any of the green ones, so I can't say specifically if the green ones are going to taste unsweetened. I would imagine they're not as sweet. But I would still think that there is some kind of sugar content even in the green ones. There's got to be careful with certain sweet peppers when you're trying to make certain dishes like salsa, for example, and you don't want that sugary flavor in it. Keep that in mind, because that will make it very sweet. And if that wasn't the if that wasn't the taste you were looking for, that could throw your dish out, almost literally. So, anyway, it's a top #1 growing pepper. I grow this pepper every year. Sometimes I do better than others. This year I didn't do that good with peppers at all. But this one still managed to throw out a couple peppers, and I can save seed for next year. And hopefully that next year it'll grow even better. So, that's the pepper review for the Jimmy Nardellos. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.